opposition, legal and peaceful, legitimate opposition to Chinese rule is considered as terrorism by the Chinese government. So that's why turning these Uyghurs to the UN to basically to solve their cases, it will even more complicate the situation. At the end, they may not be sent to any countries. So it's better for the United States to find a third country, or in the US to settle them here would be a much better option.
Okay, I'm going to actually here just to point out that the Chinese government has spoken out about the situation about the Uyghurs held in Guantanamo, and this is what the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman actually, Jiang Yu, said on February the 5th of this year. She said, "We have expressed our position many times about those Chinese terrorists detained in Guantanamo. We are opposed to any country accepting those people." Hans Hogreffe, what do you think is the consequence of the U.S. Making a decisive or taking decisive action, and, for example, keeping the Uyghurs in the U.S.?
Well, I do believe that this is a very credible and logical way, as a good outcome under our own international legal obligations. As you know, there are several other alternatives. One of them obviously would be Germany, for example, where significant numbers of Uyghurs live in and around Munich. And this goes back to an earlier point that I made to your earlier question, where we of course have to make sure that the solution is also compliant with the laws of the country that these people will be sent to. Now, Germany has an extraordinarily complex immigration situation, as there's a state level involved, there's a city level involved, and the federal level. But then again, Germany is also integrated into the Schengen Agreement of the European Union. So, you know, what if other European Union countries do not accept any Guantanamo detainees? Germany were to accept them, they become German citizens, let's assume. And what, they then cannot leave Germany and they cannot move freely within the European Union? Or just a state like Bavaria, which is the, Munich is the capital of that state within the Federal Republic of Germany. If they were to accept it, what can they then not travel to another state within Germany?
Is there any kind of precedence like this? Has there ever this kind of people without a place to go situation arisen before?
Well, there are many situations, unfortunately, around the world, and this occurs in another context of stateless individuals, where people that are not to any fault of their own have no citizenship of any country in the world, and there's roughly 20 million people that have no citizenship. So these people, once they become refugees, they really have no home to go back to, because they cannot claim citizenship in any country, and no country claims them as citizens. Now, with the Uyghurs, of course, the citizen question is very different, because the Chinese insist that they are Chinese citizens, you know, and should be returned. That's what they want. But we do, as I said, know that, of course, the international legal instruments prevent the United States from doing that.
Ali Saitov, there is the issue that China does have a lot of clout internationally, I mean, increasing clout, and I guess no one really wants to tangle with the Chinese power across the world now.
That's a fact, because of China's rise in international politics, and also because of China's lobbying. A lot of countries do not want to offend China, so that's why, even though they are sympathetic to the Uyghur situation and want to help the United States possibly accept some of these Uyghurs, but because of possible retaliation by China, so they are all resisting basically accepting the Uyghurs from Guantanamo. That is certainly a case, so our hope is if the United States at least accepts some of them, the rest of the Uyghurs will most likely be accepted by other countries as well. And yes, China has a lot of clout.
China could quite rightly say, though, that the U.S. is showing real double standards here, being very hypocritical. It started the war, so-called war on terror. It's the country that's detained these people, that's got rendition flights, that has broken international codes and conventions, and then it's preaching essentially to China and saying, no, you can't have these people back, or you shouldn't have these people back in case they're mistreated. China has, to some degree, a case to say, we are dealing with an internal issue here, don't they?
That's not necessarily true. First of all, like Hans earlier stated, that U.S. has to abide by international law. U.S. cannot extradite these Uyghurs back to China, where they will be tortured and most likely executed. And secondly is, in terms of political system, U.S. is a democracy. Here, if someone is a terrorist, the U.S. has to prove the case, prove that that individual is actually a terrorist. In China and a lot of other countries, the government doesn't need to prove the case. In the case of Uyghurs, For example, China considers, for example, Ms. Rabia Kadir, who is considered the Uyghur political leader, as a terrorist. Actually, she is one of the most peaceful women who had 11 children. And China even considers Dalai Lama a terrorist. We know he is a very peaceful man. That's how China judges people. Because in China, as long as you are peacefully opposed to the Chinese regime, you are considered a terrorist. So in fact, it's China who makes double standard in terrorism issues.
There's an email that came in, if I may put this to you please, Hans, from Paula Valli. This is another part of her email where she sent quite a comprehensive list of points, but this one says, I don't think the reason the Uyghurs cause is less popular in the West is necessarily because they are Muslim. The Tibetans have the Dalai Lama, and he has been able to captivate the imagination and sympathies of the West. Most people in the West have never heard of Uyghurs and find it difficult to pronounce the name, even when they have. Now, to some degree, that's true that the Tibetan cause, if you like, or issue is very much highlighted because there is someone championing it. There's no one in the case of the Uyghurs, is there?
Well, with the exception, of course, of Ms. Rabia Kadir, who, as you know, has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize several times for her peaceful efforts to give a voice to the Uyghur people. Certainly, you know, the Dalai Lama, who, interestingly enough, also, given that I'm the staff director of the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission, was invited by Tom Lantos, the former member of Congress and former chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, Foreign Affairs Committee, to the United States in 1987, and nobody knew His Holiness then in the United States either. So it's not that, you know, that people sort of are worldwide known immediately, and this grew over time as well. And I have no doubt that Ms. Kadir will be as well known, and the plight of the Uyghur will be as well known as the Tibetan plight is today. I have no doubt about that.
We're going to pause here for a short break. We've got more questions for you, more of the discussion in a moment. And as we pause, let me remind you, you can join the conversation with your questions and comments by logging on to livestation.com and entering the chat room there. You can see where the debate is taking place. We'll be right back.